That last bit of courage.
Right. Well, if you're watching this, welcome to the Secrets of WTUL panel, where we are going to be having an open Q&A for 4 of our lovely DJs here. Why don't you guys real quick just introduce yourselves with your DJ name and the show that you usually do.
I'll go first, I guess. I'm Laura B. That's my DJ name, Laura Brunus otherwise. I've hosted Alt Oldies, a prog show, and subbed here and there for the last close to 14 years, minus this last year.
All right, what's up, world? I'm DJ Mike 5. So happy to be here. I host Bassmentality. I'm every midnight on Thursday or Friday from 12 to 2 a.m. I play hip hop, and we get funky and do strange things. Oh, what am I supposed to say? The years or just stuff? Oh,
Whatever.
There you
We'll
go.
get to that.
Sprinkle it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm Lady Lee. I've been DJing on WTUL since the beginning of 2003, mostly doing daytime and then nighttime shows on Tuesdays. And then in the last few years, I joined the Alt Oldies crew, and that's the only show I'm in rotation in at the moment, although not in the time of pandemic, but hopefully soon again.
I'm Hunter King. That's also my DJ name. I've been with the station since 2008. Summer of 2008. I've been program director for 1 year, but I've been tech director for a while. I don't know how long. I also DJ Reverb Mondays 4 to 6 p.m.
Awesome. Well, these are our panelists, and they are just burning for your questions, so feel free to submit some. But I'll get us started off. We'll start with Laura, since you went first. We'll ask everybody, how did you find WTUL? How did you come across this station?
I found WTUL in about 1977. I went to high school uptown, and I got within close enough radius of that limited transmitter at the time, and the dial lands on it, and I'm like, oh my, no more Bay City Rollers for me. It's the Ramones all the way. And, you know, I'm still listening. And then every radio decision I've made ever since, like purchasing equipment, if it cannot pick up WTUL where I live or work, it's not an acceptable receiver or clock radio or whatever it is. That's its number one priority, is to be able to pick up WTUL. Kit Kat, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry, Mike, you want to go ahead?
Oh, yeah, I didn't know in which order we were going. I was just holding tight, like, oh, somebody's gonna jump in.
That's my bad.
Well,
I guess everybody discovers WTUL. Like, you know, it's not like it's not promoted, but it's like the best kept secret. Like, you know, like once you learn about it, you're like trying to like whisper it, like, yo, you know about WTUL? And it's like, oh yeah. But I was just kind of surfing for something to hear, like in high school. Or I guess everybody flips through the radio, and just like I was up late one night, and then like I felt like I caught this, like, you know, this beam from like Jupiter. So it was like jams I hadn't heard of, or like people I hadn't heard, and I was like, yo, it was nice. And then it just went off, and I was like, wait, what was it? So I was on a hunt trying to, like, you know, just surf. Like I guess you guys, like you were like Laura was saying, like you guys had a like weird transmitter or whatever. I don't know how I caught the frequency, but it was jamming. But like I didn't know what I was listening to. Like, you know, like now we have all this Shazam and all this other stuff. So it was just like me and my little cassette tape player. So like I didn't make a tape. I just listened, and I was like, that was great. So like the next week when I was like hunting the show, I had a tape, and I was like, man, as soon as I hit, I'm gonna hit record. So like boom, it just clicked at like midnight. Like I guess since I'm like hunting radio stations, like I'm chasing aliens or something. But like, yeah, so it hit, and I just was like, this is dope. I told friends about it, once again, like a secret, like, yo, have you heard this? And they were like, I don't believe you. So, you know, I had to tape as proof. And then It was crazy, but I didn't know it was at like WTUL was even at like Tulane. You know, it was just like it's this thing, but like not thinking that like it has to come from a place. Just that like it's just beaming out. I don't know. In my youth, I had like a vivid imagination. So you know, if I couldn't, you know, fill in the blanks sometimes is how I go about it. So you know, 9 times you're wrong or you're right. So it was like I figured I was just getting this from somewhere, and it was great. But you guys were right up the street. Like when I like realized, like I'm from Uptown, so it's like Ferret Street. You guys are like boom boom, and I was like, what? It's awesome. So I was in range. I was open. That was long winded. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. You can go ahead now, Lee.
The first time I heard WTUL, I was a freshman at Tulane in 2002, and we all had TVs in our room, and the Tulane TV station would broadcast movies, and then in the interim would just have this blank screen, I think with what their future programming would be, and WTUL would be on in the background. So the first time I heard the radio station was actually because I was watching TV, and I just kept it on because I liked it so much. I didn't even know that I didn't like connect the dots that I could listen to it on a radio. I thought I could only listen to it on TV.
Like the box.
And then from there, a friend picked up on the fact that we could actually be DJs on the station, and sort of similar to Mike, I also used to make tapes when I was a kid from the radio, and so I like had been building these tapes all this time. And when I found out that I too could create playlists on air, I got really stoked on it. So I became an apprentice in the fall of 2012, and then January 2003, I had my first radio show from 2 to 4 a.m. on Tuesdays, which I actually kept for years. I loved my 2 a.m. radio show.
Late nights, I feel
until I couldn't stay awake any longer.
It could be fun.
It was. I had the same people who would call every week. I had this one guy who was a security guard, another guy who worked another graveyard shift. I had these consistent callers that would request songs they had heard the week before, and it was actually really fun. I just, after a few years, just needed to sleep in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, Hunter.
I'm also local. I listened to it in high school, graduated high school like 2004. I have a terrible memory, and that's going to be an issue during this whole thing. So I don't remember when I started listening or how I found it. I do remember one show in particular that stood out, which was the Pretty DJ Abortion show. They were very funny, and one day during an exec meeting, Tell casually mentioned that they had donated a bunch of tapes, and I was like, "Gimme!" But and I remember one specific time where they would hold these contests where you could win absolutely nothing, and I correctly identified the theme song to the show My Brother and Me, and they kept mentioning my name throughout the show, and it was the coolest thing. But yeah, so then I went to college out of state. I went to Wesleyan University and got very involved at their station, WESU. I was their music director for 2 years. That's where my show started, and then I came back here and immediately was like, I gotta get involved at WTUL. You know, this is the station that was important to me back in the day. And thankfully, I think they actually had a summer apprentice program, or maybe, yeah, I think they did. So I lucked out that year.
Yeah, you passed through my show as a quick 3-show apprentices. I think you might have showed up for my show once and maybe hit 1 or 2 others, and it was the fast track. I had the same experience.
If you were my scheduled person or if you were subbing for somebody, but I definitely apprenticed under you for a minute.
Yeah, at least one show.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's how I came on board.
Everybody's got so much more interesting stories than me. I was just like, yeah, I went to Tulane and I found out they had a radio station. Which actually, though, it brings me to my next question. Would you say that y'all's taste in music was sort of similar to what TUL was playing, or did TUL kind of turn you on to all this type of music?
So it must be my turn again? Or we don't have to go in the same
order. Whoever.
Go ahead, Lee.
Well, I was just going to say that my taste was 100% informed by TUL. only because I came in sort of with this really rudimentary interest in what was popular in the 90s and the early 2000s. And I was really into college bands from different states and sort of things like that. And I first apprenticed with someone named Bud Hirons and then Cassandra Burrows. And I remember when I apprenticed with Cassandra Burrows, she was sort of like, your music taste sucks, which I understand that sounds mean, but was a bit helpful. She was like, go out into the stacks and just pull music you've never listened to and start listening to it, which I did. And I found other music. But then actually, I used to listen to the Alternative Oldies show, and there was a DJ named John Oles who did it. And he played only garage rock and music from the 60s. And I just got hooked on it and like started diving deep, and then like met him through TUL. He would give me records, and he sort of started me on this path where now my shows are very strictly garage rock from the 1960s.
AKA
and that is,
flea market, right?
Yes.
what was that?
That's flea market, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lori, you can go ahead.
All right, so yeah, my taste likely is been informed by WTUL. I mean, I was 14 when I started listening, so I went from, you know, kind of teeny bop. I had, you know, I liked Rod Stewart back then and some other, you know, quality musicians, but up until that point, it'd been, you know, kind of little girl stuff, I guess you'd say. And the minute I hit WTUL, it was a whole nother change, you know. It was, and it's been everything I've listened to. They were DJs throughout the years, and sadly I don't remember all their names, but they would just teach you about music, like teach you, here's this band, and you know, the musicians were once in this band, and you know, you would get music education along the way. You weren't just listening to music. And Bud, I didn't apprentice under Bud Hirons, but he taught me when I first became a DJ during the summer. He was before me, and he just taught me some great little tricks, and which is similar to what you said about play music you don't know. He would tell me to just go in the stacks and pull this much vinyl, put it on the chair, and just rifle through it, read the reviews, and play stuff. And I still do that. It's the greatest way. If you have to sub in 5 minutes, you can pull off one of the best shows you'll ever do. Sometimes it'll be so randomly good. So yeah,
it's really true.
Yeah.
Just recently, you know, we have our to people that aren't involved at WTUL, we have our online, we DJs have access to our digitized vinyl, and every once in a while I'll jump in there and just listen to something totally random. And I have bought like 4 things off Discogs just from things that I landed on recently. You know, it's the virtual version of what you just said, I guess. But
yeah. But it's still the stacks.
Yeah, exactly. It's the exact same source. So,
yeah.
I guess I'll just jump in if you're done.
I'm done.
I'd be lying if I said that the WT was like my main source. It was absolutely one of them. In high school, WTUL was very important. Also, I'd say the youth CD section of the Mushroom was very important to me.
Yes.
And I was just talking about somebody with this recently, but for some reason, MTV2, you can get it over Aerial, and that helped a lot. And also just the internet. I was on all sorts of forums, and I would, you know, Napster was an important thing for sure. And then of course when I went to WESU, being music director is a bizarre way to learn about music. It's drinking from a fire hose. You hear everything. You start to hate everything. But so I was happy to be done with that. But even once I started doing surf again, because when I first came to WTUL, I was doing progressive right off the bat. I thought I'd never play surf again. I was so sick of it. But even once I started doing surf again, I always eye the merits, because like I love seeing what comes through, and I love looking at the reviews, and I've found so many amazing things thanks to our music directors, and of course also through the random method of just, you know, grabbing stuff that looks cool in the stacks.
Yeah, I guess time kind of like shapes the music, like my show's kind of a specialty show. So like sometimes it's like I'm always playing hip hop, but you know, we have other DJs or like producers who might stop by the station and like just talk about the creation of making music. So like a lot of times, you know, they're like sampling records and people like sample records. So like, hey, I'll play a sample. Or you know, sometimes it's like, you know, people like EDM, like where it's just boom, 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 you know? And so just kind of like playing to the groove. So like over time, I guess it's just like, you know, like expanding my universe, if you will. Like, you know, at first you start off like you have like a limited amount of knowledge, but then like you like I want to play more stuff. Man, William Anyabor, he has a song called Atomic Bomb. Man,
Yeah.
what? I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to cook some hot rice. Like, you know, it's just like, and it's not what you think it is. Like, so like just dropping that suddenly in the middle of like your set. It's like, wait, where did he get that from? So like, you know, having like just like good jewels. Like African Bumbata had stopped by and he was saying like, you know, instead of just trying to think about it is like, I'm a hip hop person. I'm a whatever. I'm a DJ. I'm here to play to the party. I'm here to play to these people. So like, what's my crowd? So I mean, like, I'm definitely in love with hip hop, but I feel like the elements are always inside of other stuff. Like, man, what's that guy name? Girl that you used to know. He uses polyrhythm. Why am I sucking at this? Gautier? Is that his name?
Yeah, I think that's
But
right.
yeah, so you know, like the beat goes through like all these various different breakdowns. That's kind of like just like a Drake song. Stuff like, you know, he's not like singing and harmonizing or whatever or putting effects down. So like when you like, I guess, abstract the music, you know, you start getting all these like different like funkier cuts. I just was playing My Way Home for the kids or for my children earlier. Well, I guess I wasn't playing it for them because they don't care. But it was like mad fast. So I was like, man, where's the chopped and screwed version? So it was just like always flipping it up. I was reading an article like Tame Impala. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. Someone was like, yeah, man, I love to hear some Tame Impala chopped and screwed. I go listen to regular Tame. I'm like, this is jamming. So it's just like, you know, like the music can always be, but then like, you know, like, can we make it funkier? Like, you know, can we give it bumps of cocaine? Yeah. You know, and then just set it off into the wind. So that's what I really like about the music. I probably got sidetracked, but that's what also helps me think about like expanding the music. Like kids on the internet are always like taking like random old school stuff, and you know, giving it like a revisit or putting like, you know, a new beat on it. And sometimes that makes the record shine where it wasn't really there. And other times it's just audio tweaks. It's hard to place, but I know like earlier in my life, I guess I wasn't thinking about like, is this a music type? So now I'm definitely like thinking about like, oh man, I heard this. Other people should probably be making this.
That's awesome. No, don't worry about getting like off track. We're just having a
Yeah, no,
conversation, and
I'm just
loving
saying
it.
like the
Well-
music takes you like in a whole nother way. Like I was listening to some MF Doom before this to get like pumped up or whatever. He like died this year or like last year and it came out this year. But like Doom, like, you know, you listen to some like if you listen to the record, it's like, oh, this is some Sade, and then like you'll go listen to some Sade, and then it'll like, you know, it's like these music wormholes. So I mean, sometimes it doesn't always translate to just being like it's gonna be hip hop, but I feel like it splashes over to a lot of different stuff. And so many people listen to so many other people, like the Quincy Jones documentary that's on Netflix. He was like, man, there's only 12 notes. So like, you know, we're all gonna be playing the same keys. It's just finding your tone or whatever. And then I guess they go to like Inner City or Summertime in the City or whatever, or like some of the stuff that was sampled on Kill Bill. You're like, what? Like when you go back and it's like when you listen to the whole song, obviously you get a different interpretation. But just those tweaks and those finesses, like I don't know if you guys do the Brazilian. I don't even know the name of like what it is. It's just like, you know, it's funky. It's like not like South African, but it's like flutes, you know, like unusual instruments, but weird timings, but it's groovy or whatever. Like if you could cook to it, if your food tastes great and the music's bumping, it's good music. If like you start eating and the food tastes nasty, you know, obviously you just throw the record like, bad rice.
Yeah.
Well, going off of music that's great to cook to, I wanted to know if you guys have any like, what's your old reliable song? A song that you like are always going back to. You play it like all the time on your shows.
I only laugh because I start and end every show with the exact same song, so I don't know if that counts as my reliable. But I start every single show with Reckless Eric's version of I'd Go the Whole Wide World. And then or not his version, that's a song. And then I end every single show with the Sonics version of Nighttime is the Right Time. And I've tried to change that, and I have like a physical gut reaction and can't keep my hands from putting the record onto the table. And so those are always the songs that I play consistently. But then otherwise, I guess like there are a handful of songs. I bring records with me to the station because we don't have necessarily all the music that I want to play. And I do find that oftentimes there's like a handful of like 5 songs that will like never go out of rotation, and I'll find ways to put them in different ways just because I love them so much. But also in the Alt Oldies show, we alternate, so we only do it once a month. I don't feel super bad because I'm like, if you only hear the song once a month on WTUL, like you're probably okay. It's not overkill. Those are mine.
Well, I can't say I have one song in particular that I'll always go to and play because my mood's not always the same. It might be more of a band than it would be exactly a song. One song I do like to play often is anybody's version of Alone Again or For Whatever Reason. Because none of the 3 bands are actually my favorite bands, but I just love that song, and I think anybody who does it, it almost sounds wonderful. But I love The Damned and Calexico, and obviously Love's version. So that's probably one that comes to mind that I play a lot. Otherwise, it'd have to be something local from probably the early 80s. I'm not sure what, but something from that, maybe the Normals.
Yeah, I tend to play the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse theme song. It's my outro, and I play the intro from the Outer Limits. But those are just like tags. Like when I was really thinking about my show, or like really talking with my show about my older brother, he was like, you gotta like play to your heart. And I was like, okay, what is my heart like? And I'm like, man, I like the intro to the Outer Limits. I feel like it calls you and it tells you like, come watch me, even though it's on the radio. So I guess it's like, come listen to me. But then like, the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse thing is like, I'm about to leave, like goodbye. So, and then, kind of like the brass band, people play music for you, like, the dance is over, like we're going to cut the lights on, stop kissing on her. It's over with. Goodbye. So, yeah. So, those are my 2 mainstays, but those aren't really songs, but those are the main 2 songs I really play. I play a lot of Dilla. He passed away. He's like a modern hip hop. He was a beat maker, an excellent beat maker. But like he had a weird knack for like hearing songs and just like scrubbing out these weird samples. Like, he'll like tear up some raw airs and you'll be like, what? And then you go back and listen to the track and it's like, that was great by itself. But I think like a lot of times people like hearing songs that they kind of recognize, that's something I like lean into a lot. Not because he's gone, but just because of like how well sometimes the records hit.
So I guess I'm up. I don't really have one. There have been some that I have like kind of thought about making a theme song, and I haven't played those in a while. I'd say the one that I probably land on a lot lately. There's a band from Canada called the Head Henchmen, and they do a really good surf version of Sissy Strut, which like amazingly kind of removes a lot of the syncopation of the Meters version, which I don't know. It's really smart and clever, and it's really applicable being a New Orleans surf show. Things that have like that are useful like that are really nice to have.
I think it's hard sometimes to like want to go to my show and make it as diverse as possible in terms of the music I'm bringing into the station and onto the airwaves. But then I also, when I love a song, I listen to it on repeat. I'm starting to get obsessed with the sound until it like moves on because another sound replaces it. And Laura, you brought up the Normals, and I was thinking about how there's on their album, on the first song on side B is this demo called Many Roads to Follow, and it's very short and it's so beautiful. And I would bring that record with me a lot just because I love it so much. And like, I love it. I want to hear it. Doesn't everyone else want to hear this for like a minute and 16 seconds? So I feel like that happens to me a lot on my shows where there's the songs that stick because I would be playing them if I was in the car or in my house anyway. I just put them on the air also.
So, well, going the complete opposite of comfort and comfortable, Liz asks, what's one specialty show that you've always wanted to try your hand at, even if just for 1 week at WTUL, but you haven't been able to yet?
I have an answer for that one, I think. Well, first of all, actually, for when I was program director, I made a thing called the Super Slot. It was
and it could be anything.
Failed one, but what were you saying?
Yeah.
I
I
love
was
the
just
super
saying,
slot.
yeah. When it could be like, it's like it's really like a slot, like whoever wants to jump in the time.
Yeah. It was an open slot. It was in a really desirable time slot. It was Wednesdays from 10 to midnight. And the rule was that it was nobody's slot. It was if you wanted to try something out, do something weird, that just for 1 week, that's what it was for. So I did do a few that way. And it was really fun. It was hard to fill it regularly, which is why it eventually died out. That said, I
bring back the super slot, man.
Kind of muse, like if I had more time, I would totally do like a psychedelic show, like really guitar heavy, long form actually, like a lot of like 10-15 minute jams. I listen to a lot of that stuff, and I would love to do a show that is just that. It'd be easier than my shows since some of them are so long.
Yeah, Hunter, I would tune into that show for sure.
And I just need to clone myself, that's all. Anyway, that's it for me.
I guess country. I haven't really taken a moment to do that show. I thought Stage and Screen was like music from movie soundtracks, but supposedly it was something else. So I danced with that one. I dabbled. Once like a caller called me up and was like, yo, I'm loving the music, but I don't know if you're in the right slot. I was like, hey, it might not be, but I got this list. So this is what we going with right now. So, it was fun in that manner, but I feel like country might be a stretch, or Americana. I'm not really too sure. Like, I feel like if you like jam TUL, like if you keep it locked all day, like and do stuff, like it'll jump around. Like I guess it will, but it'll jump around. So you'll be like, yeah, man, earlier today I was listening to, and then this, and so you're like, all right, you're naming a lot. So like, which one? So in that way, it would be hard to focus. But definitely like the one I guess would be a thing, like trying to figure it out and definitely figure out the sound. Blues was an interesting show because there's like so many like weird subsets, like, and other people play blues that you don't know that they're playing the blues. So I thought that was weird. Like there's like a chord progression thing, like for real. Like if you play like, I'm not a musician. You do some stuff like this, you're bringing in the blues, and that's so weird because like it could be in like rock and roll songs, or like there's like psych blues or whatever. Like there's like Delta blues, like how like the guy talks about shrimp and bubblegum, like like just like that. It's like so many variations of the blues, and like at a point it would be like you're playing rock and roll, be like, now I'm playing the blues. So it's like it's interesting in that way. But yeah, I think country Americana might be difficult because I'm always like trying to find the groove, but I don't know. I guess I would find the groove, but that would be more difficult.
Yeah,
I appreciate that you called the movie Bubblegum.
That's not the name. No, that's the place, right? Oops, it's Forrest Gump. There we go. Look, man, I get it mixed up. Like I see a character's face, and you're like, is that Tom Hanks? But what's his name though? And then you're like, you can't just call them all Tom Hanks because then that wouldn't be the movie. Like, what's the one with the ball with Tom Hanks? Like, what's the man's name though? Wilson? Like, that's the ball. It gets weird.
I'm sorry, Lee, I cut you off.
Oh no, I was just saying I was once having a cheese show and I also got a call with someone being like, you don't get cheese at all. And I was like, I don't. I'm not sure who gets cheese is actually the truth, except the people who play the cheese show. It is very specific and I've listened to it and it's lovely. And it is like a very specific thing that a handful of people in this world
Is it like when you
are actually
sing
able
the
to like curate
songs?
really well, you know? Jazz is the thing to me that is the scariest because there's actually so much of it. And also so many of the songs are so long. So if you know, it's like trying to make my way through the jazz world is incredibly intimidating. And jazz used to have its own room down in the basement. The first time, our previous tenure in the basement, we had a separate jazz room that you had to have the code. You had to be a jazz DJ and have the code to get in there. You know, just wall to wall to wall jazz in a way that, like, I don't know, it's just somehow more overwhelming than other genres, in my opinion. And that would be a really fun show to figure out how to do well.
You know, I've had to, like, you know, my show is usually right before a jazz show, and so I have emergency subbed a lot of jazz shows. I wouldn't say that well. And like, there's a lot of jazz that I like and seek out. However, you know, when I was in these emergency situations, my rule of thumb was to go through the stacks and just pull out album covers. Like, whoever had some great afros, it usually worked pretty well. Like, this is like judged by hair, and I usually ended up with a pretty good show.
I can't refute that. You know, everybody has their digging technique. That, you know, that's one you might want to be like, that's mine though. Like, don't steal that.
All right, so I don't think I answered that. I've subbed quite a lot of genres just because, like Hunter, you know, you've got an afternoon prog show, you might get stuck doing jazz because somebody can't make it, or you know, it's summer break and you do 2 shows. And I've done country and other things. I haven't been able to do anything late night or early morning like cheese or hip hop. So those would probably be the ones I'd like to try, just because I haven't had an opportunity. I even did opera way back when we had an opera show, and that was actually the easiest show of all shows to sub because it was basically one CD.
Yeah.
And you put it in, it lasted 2 hours, and then you sat there and just, you could clean up the station and do whatever. So and then you learned a little about opera, but
Thank you all so much. Sorry, I keep losing the space bar thing to talk, and I try to talk, and it's just like nothing. But we have actually a lot of questions. I'm excited. One is from Ryan. It's what's been one of the most obscure records you've played at WTUL?
Whoa. I don't know.
It's
a
hard to
hard one.
determine with
Yeah, I
radioactivity.
played a lot, but
yeah.
it's hard to say. And also, like, I'm already kind of a niche, but the first one that comes to mind, and I probably have some that are more valuable, but or more rare, but this one is pretty rare still. There's a 45 by Les Talismans out of Canada called L'Interplanétaire, and it's like one of my favorite records, period. It gives me goosebumps every time. Like, just has these pounding drums in the beginning leading up to it, and I feel like the guitar, it's played normally, but it just feels like it's played backwards. That's a big one to me. And then also one that is a little more coveted. Actually, this is one, going back to one that you keep playing a lot. Morgus the Magnificent had one killer surf record. I don't think he had anything to do with the surf side of it. He did the A side, Werewolf, but the B side is really good. And it was a holy grail of mine for a long time. I was trying to find out everything I could about it, who the band was on it. It was a big saga, and I eventually found it. It was actually cut in Detroit. So, like, I've got plenty of friends that collect Morgus records. nobody ever sees that one. It's because it's not a local record, like most of his records. But I one day went to a garage sale in Metairie. It was a place that I just randomly stopped at. I asked, she said, "Are you looking for anything?" I'm like, "Well, I'm always looking for records." And she says, "Oh, well, I don't know if you want any of mine. It's just stuff that a teenage girl in the 1960s would listen to." And I'm like, "Really now?" And I'm going through it, and there it is, right in front of me. It's the picture disc version too, which I figured there was no way in hell. I actually had 2 copies of it, and in that stack, I bought both of them. She offered, I think, $2 per record. I gave her $100 bill in my pocket because it was worth more than that. And so that's one that I play a lot. It's called the Morgus Creep. And actually, like I said, I got 2 copies of it. The other copy, the one that wasn't a picture sleeve, I traded to another record collector, and that's how I got the first record that I just mentioned. So the 2 are linked. And actually, this was a whole story finding out who the band was. And then one day, I put all this stuff, like my whole story trying to figure this stuff out, on my radio show's website. And one day during my show, this guy calls, and it's the guitarist for the band on my show. And I'm like, "Oh my God, let me take down your number. I can't talk to you about this now." He told me everything I wanted to know. He sent me some promo pictures. So it was a really amazing thing. So that was a long-winded story. But I guess I don't even know if I exactly answered the question, but
no, I think that was an answer to me, at least.
You gave us the good stuff.
All right, next person.
All right, well, I'll go. I've got some nameless ones for sure, because in the stacks there are some demo recordings in plain old white jackets with just the hole cut out in the middle, no artwork. The label on the vinyl record is handwritten, and there's some famous bands, and I just can't remember, but they're in there, and I've played them. And in terms of what I knowingly played, I've got some 45s of my own from New Orleans bands in the late 70s, early 80s, most namely the Wayward Youth. That one used to be worth some money. I don't know if it still is, but we've got, I think, one of their songs on a New Orleans comp in the stacks, but I brought in the 45 version, and a few other local things like that. I think the Monsters on the old, I don't know what you call these, Hunter, you probably know, the floppy disc vinyl record. It's not a record, it's like a plastic floppy thing. You have to put a penny on it to hold it.
Yeah.
We used to get demos. Yeah. We used to get demos sometimes at the state. Yeah. So I have one of those that I brought in and played from an old New Orleans band. So
I think that Wayward Youth album sells for about 200.
It's the 45. It's a
yeah.
I let it leave the house once in a rare while to go to TUL only.
I don't know if I have obscure stuff to play. Like I guess when you record dig, sometimes you find like samples for stuff, but I don't know if I could like name one. I mean, like sometimes when me and my co-DJ, not my co-DJ, the Soul Show before me would trade off, we would like battle, trying to like who could play like the best soul song. So she would like throw down the sample, and then I would like try to come in with a sample. So like I guess through that we were like teaching each other stuff, but I can't think of one that's like through the roof. Ryan Isley just did a versus. I played Footsteps in the Darkness. Dilla sampled it on a track, which I'm gonna suffer at not knowing the name of, but that's cool. Google it. But she was like, "Oh, I love their Footsteps in the Darkness," and I'm like, "Oh, that's just some Dilla or whatever." So like the interplay of songs, I guess, which makes my show obscure. Like things you think that like wouldn't be a hip hop song, like somebody's probably like set back on it. Like like if you do a good job at sampling a record, you can never really tell what it is, but like you'll be listening to something, and like you'll kind of be like singing, and then like you say the wrong words, and then like the original right words just kind of flow out. So like, I don't know. I don't have a good example. Does anybody have like a joint where you like sing the words, but you're like, wait, that's not right? Or
Weird Al
All
songs.
time.
there you go. Boom.
My whole life.
So it hits like that. So like all the music's kind of obscure, like because you know, like it's related to this other song, but it's not. I guess popular music is really bad with that though, because like if you're like more than like 20 years ago, like stuff that was hot in the 90s or the 2000s, it's on a refresh. So those same bass lines are just like coming back, and people aren't really like updating the songs. It's like I'm gonna put a different bridge. You know, a new song would be cool or whatever. That's not a complaint. It's just being like the music's being cycled. But it's definitely always cool to check out originals. I'm all about originals.
You know, in terms of like obscure songs, I bring music with me that I collect, and so I have a handful of songs. But the coolest thing that ever happened to me at the station was there's this guy named Elliot Smith who played in the French Quarter. He's a French Quarter musician on the street, and he's got this one recording from the 60s that's it's either called He's a Devil or I'm a Devil, because they sing it back and forth. And someone put it on a CD and put it in the station, and I happened upon it, and I was like, this is not only is this like a song that like nobody would ever know, but also I do think that 145 is like very rare, and that was a really like random cool find in the station once.
You just gave the whole room chills. Somebody was like, yo, is that Elliot Smith not the famous one?
I know.
Like, what? Because I was like, wait, didn't dude die? So, like, how you had the ghost stories?
No,
It's all good. He passed the music to you.
Different Elliot Smith. Different Elliot Smith.
That reminds me, though, the one that I feel like a lot of people have played that I don't think actually ever, like, I think it was sent in only to WTUL, and I don't think it exists as a song that is purchasable, is, I don't actually remember who the artist is, but the Lake Pontchartrain song.
Oh, yes. Dami plays that all the time. What is his name?
Yeah.
I don't think...
I know the name of the artist.
The only way you can hear that. I think somebody eventually ripped it from WTUL and put it on YouTube. But yeah.
Oh, I can hear her saying his name. It's just not clear at the moment.
Yeah. You know, recently, actually, a really sweet thing happened at WTUL also, which I think is a testament to the fact that nothing is predictable at WTUL except maybe my opening and closing song. But a friend passed away recently, and she had a series of tapes from bands that she had been in. And our music director, Rotten Milk, who was friends with her, along with some other friends, digitized her music and put it in the stacks and put it in Merritt's. And I was driving on the highway listening to TUL, and like the sound of somebody who had just recently passed came on the radio. And at first my brain sort of twisted and exploded, and then because I didn't understand how it could happen. But then it was just really sweet. And I called the station and I was like, oh, this is so nice you're playing this. This is a friend of mine, you know, blah, blah, blah. And the DJ was like, oh yeah, I just heard it last week and it's great. I've already played it 3 times. And I was like, that is a cool thing that happens on WTUL.
That's so sweet. Like, where else would that happen? That's I love TUL. We have a lot more questions. We've got one from Pam, a listener, and she asks, how do you determine if a song is too popular to play on TUL?
What do you mean?
I'm only laughing because clearly there's like discretion, I think, by the DJs. There's discretion by the radio station as a whole and the people who are currently operating the station, because there is a turnover in who our music directors are throughout the years, and they will weigh in on it. But I'm only laughing because when I was first a DJ, the music director at the time, whose name was either Duncan or Dustin, I can't remember, Tell would remember his name, he wrote me a letter about how I need to stop playing Modest Mouse because they're too popular, and that, and I was like 2003, and he like tore into me about the popularity of that band. And so that made me set sort of my bar to be like, okay, well, I guess if you can hear it on commercial radio station, it can't be played on TUL, although Modest Mouse was not a commercial radio station at the time, in my opinion, but whatever. But I definitely know that like we all as DJs do not play things for the most part that you can hear at other radio stations, because that's what makes, you know, what we do unique. And also like, while other people can chime in about how they make their decisions, that's just sort of one bar. Although I will say that I play a lot of 60s songs that were definitely hits in the 60s, but I'm like, no one is really playing them in New Orleans or around the country, so I let them slide in here and there. But I'm sure other people have how they decide.
Like on the wall, it says like what we can and what we cannot play when you're in the beautiful station. But it's really just supposed to be about like trying to look at like on Billboard, like not top 40. Like, you know, sometimes there's like that one weird song that's like really doing well or whatever. But like basically like if somebody has an Apple commercial that we've probably helped them reach that plateau. Like we've seen them off into the moon. But there's always like a weird amount of wiggle room for like remixes and reinterpretations because a lot of my stuff sometimes for like trying to play certain joints is off of like people doing remixes or like touching up the beat or making it like 8-bit, which is like gamey kind of music or whatever, or like just, you know, just giving it a jazz or, you know, a reinterpretation. Like sometimes I'll play like some Kanye, but it's like through an orchestra that's like, you know, thought about it differently. So it's all on how you approach it, but definitely not trying to play like stuff that you're like really accustomed to. I think that's one of the freedoms in WTUL, even if you feel like you might have a bad show, is that like you're playing your music, like, you know, like stuff you think people would be interested in. So I guess like if you're playing really popular music, that means you're a popular kid. You shouldn't work for us. No popular people. Be like cool and eccentric. Like you can't be popular though. I don't know. I'm just saying that.
This isn't really an answer to the question. My show it's all surf music, which is like most people don't even know what that is. But Lee's story reminded me of an anecdote that I thought I'd tell. When I was program director, at least I'd like to think it was when I was program director. Maybe I was being a jerk when I was not program director. I thought a few too many people were playing Neutral Milk Hotel. Like, I mean, they're not too popular necessarily. Like, you're more likely to hear them on college radio than I don't think you'd hear them on commercial radio. But it was just like constant. There was so much Neutral Milk Hotel, and so I took the CD out of the case and I wrote a note inside to look inside a different case for the CD. And then that led to a different CD. That led to a different. I basically made a wild goose chase for them. And I tried to do it to bands that they might otherwise enjoy. You know, they'd learn along the way. Although, just to be, you know, rude, I ended it on a album by Harry Pussy. It lasted about a week. It found its way back into the. It took no time at all for it to find its way back into its original CD case. So.
Hey, isn't the lead singer from Raceland? They're kind of a local band.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and you know, there's an album on Avery Island.
Yeah.
You know, like no hate towards Neutral Milk Hotel. It was just getting to be a bit much.
Laura, I don't know if you have anything to add.
I didn't answer that one. How do I decide if it's too popular to play? Well, I've always loved alternative music, so if it's not alternative or different, I'm not going to be inclined to play it. I figure if 3/4 of the people I know in my life know the band, it's too popular because, you know, that's kind of like the mainstream. So kind of like Mike says, too popular, you know, more the underground kids. So if that 1/4 likes it, it's probably alternative enough for me to play. Yeah.
And I do just want to add that I think so part of it is not that it's a lack of interest or respect in those bands, but more so that if bands are getting played on commercial radio stations in New Orleans, they don't need our help and our exposure. There's so many bands who've benefited from the fact that they're local bands that are only getting played on TUL, and maybe someone hears it and buys an album and puts it somewhere else. And so I think that's the motivation, not just the snarkiness of, oh, you've made it, we're not interested.
Yeah, because there's a lot of bands that I love that I would never even think of playing on TUL. They're just not the fit. You know, they don't need, like you said, they don't need WTUL. They've made it.
Yeah. Well, we have another question from Jack, and he asks, I was wondering about unusual formats you guys find yourself playing on air. For example, do you ever play cassette tapes? Laura B, do you remember any 4-tracks or other weird old school formats?
No, but I haven't been at TUL that long. I've gone through the box of carts and all the old cassette tapes with Rich, our ticket person, to catalog them. But I wasn't a DJ in times when would have been able to play those. The weirdest thing I played was the flexi disc, although I had played that as a kid in my own home. But in terms of on the air at WTUL, that's probably the weirdest thing I've played. We do have a cassette player though, thanks to Hunter, if it's still there.
Yeah. I think actually it's Coolbot now, but it'll be back one day. There are definitely some cassette fans out there that are probably gonna bemoan its absence. So I want to bring it back.
Bring it back. We used to have a cassette player when I first started DJing at TUL, and I found that DJing with a cassette is actually really hard. I mean, we have time to cue a song, but if you want to go like song to song to song, it's actually pretty annoying. But it was awesome to have as an option. Although our cassette collection was rather small, I would bring in some cassettes sometimes.
I have not personally DJ'd from the, but you know, during COVID, I've been sort of, I've had a small little archive project, basically just grabbing stuff from the studio when I go in to fix things and digitizing them. And a big part of that has been the NAB tapes, which are not a commercial format. They're like these blue tapes. They're basically little cartridge reel-to-reels that that always start, you know, instantly. Oh wait, I wonder if I have a example that I can throw in front of the screen. Maybe not. I think I might have brought them all back to the station.
Show and tell.
Anyway, so I haven't played any. No, wait, or have I? I think I might have. No, I don't think I did. But I found some pretty rare stuff on there, especially. There are some Royal Pendletons songs that they cut, I think, in studio that I don't think have been released on anything else. I once I messaged DJ Maddie about it, and he never responded. But I haven't DJ'd them, but I've written them. Personally, I've definitely played flexi discs, not on my show, but during like I had a 4 to 6 a.m. once. There was a Music to Shave By album. Sorry, not album, just a flexi disc, you know, probably like less than a minute long. And I put that on and I turned the microphone up as loud as it went, and I had brought a shaving razor and and shaved myself on air to the 45. I'm not sure it was audible whatsoever, and it was really painful because I did not use any shaving cream. It was a dumb experiment. I'm glad I didn't.
The intent was there. That's all that matters. People can't see what's happening in radio, just feel it. I think I've only played vinyl. Like a lot of the young kids, when we were in station, really wanted to play vinyl since they were so accustomed to just playing stuff off of MP3s and whatnot, or like, you know, other devices. But they were really geeked out to do vinyl. I don't know if we had cassettes, but we never had a chance to do any of that. Like I would never want to play a cassette show. Like it's cooler to record WTUL on a cassette as opposed to like trying to like go song to song, because then, you know, you never know where you're gonna land up at. You get the same kind of thing with vinyl, but like, you know, you get that weird, like I spin the record back to the point, you know, but I don't know what the tape feels like, but people definitely I don't know. I guess people like how vinyl feels and like what it looks like. Supposedly it has like a texture quality thing or whatever. Like maybe I'm too digital, but like I guess I can respect vinyl for what it is. Like if you're gonna listen to something like that, you know, from front to back is awesome, then you would get it on vinyl. Like when I first met my wife, I guess. Like not to say it like that, but like I was gonna say when I first met my girlfriend, because that's how it's better shaped in the story. I was like, yo, have you ever listened to ODB? And she was like, no. So like I went back and played his first album for her. Like I wish I had that on vinyl, but I had played it off of YouTube because we were in the kitchen, like cooking or whatever. And like it was weird and abstract and awesome, like what it should be. And she was like, you know, I kind of dug it. So, you know, I wish that was like something like, you know, like if you're gonna like play some music for someone, like the whole thing for the first time, I feel like that probably should be like a vinyl experience. The cassette feels like we're taking this drive because, you know, you gotta hit it, and, you know, with cassette it won't, like if you hit a bump it won't skip. So, you know, everything has like its time and its place. But definitely, like, you know, first date, first love. If you some kind of way you could long stroll through the park with a vinyl cassette player, make it happen. Well, no, that's wrong. With a vinyl player, not a cassette player.
Oh,
We got
I'm
what
gonna
you
jump
mean.
back in.
No worries.
I could not find an NAB tape, but I figured I could show you. This is the station's NAB machine. It's super heavy, but yeah, this is what you play them with. It's pretty straightforward. Just the start button, green button, stop, cue. There's the WTUL sticker. But I just thought it'd be fun to show you all that while you're asking about obscure formats.
Well, only Hunter would
Speaking
have
of-
something heavy.
Yeah, Hunter would be the expert on all that kind of stuff. But speaking of fun, we have a fun question from David, who asks, what was the best call you've ever received through the phone in the studio?
The guy with the info, he calls you and he's like, this date, this time,
Kevin.
I'm dropped. Look,
Yeah.
boom, this date,
We've all
this
gotten
time.
it.
You know, astrological stars moved around here. Caesar was watching the sunrise right now. Do you have something? You know, he's never a fan of your show. He's got the Farmer Almanac on lock.
Is
Yeah,
he?
he's not
And he
even
got the lotto
listening. I don't
ticket.
I
think.
haven't heard him in years.
Yeah, I
What's
mean,
that,
I hope
Hunter?
everything's going good with him. Peace and blessings.
Oh, he hasn't called me in years. Yeah, I didn't know he was still doing it.
It had been a while. I hadn't obviously been in the studio in a year, but it had probably been a good 6 months or so since I'd heard from him. But he used to call my show at the top of the hour.
Mhm.
Everything Mike just said. Then he would call when Larry D would take the helm at 4 o'clock and repeat all that. And then suddenly it stopped. He'd say he'd bought a lotto ticket and that he was going to call us if he won. That was part of the spiel. He was Kevin from Harahan, I think.
Yeah.
River Ridge.
I don't know that this is like, I don't know if I would do this again, but I once went on a date from somebody who called into the radio station. I was playing a song, and then it was transitioning into the next show, so I was putting up records in the back, and someone called to say that they loved the song, and I don't remember what happened, but I went back on air and I was like, whoever just called, call me again, because I love that song. We should hang out. And he called, and then we had a cup of coffee. And that's when it died. It didn't go anywhere, but I was like, after that experience, I was like, had that been had that worked out, that would have been the cutest origin story.
Yeah, that's how you come in heavy with it. I like that. It's too late at night for me to really like try to like have a love connection. From 12 to 2, I feel like it's all sketchy. Like meet me at Miss May's. Like, nah, I'm going home.
No, this was when it was a 2 to 4 p.m. So it was a perfect.
Yeah. You had the movie set up.
Yeah, I did. I could write it.
I dated a listener for a month. You know,
Hunter, tell us more.
Via Facebook, I think. We're both married to different people at this point. You know, she was cool, you know, but not my, you know, it lasted a month, so there you go.
Okay, wait. I will tell you that the end of that date story is a little, it's like not funny, but basically after that one date, he would call my show all the time, and I was like not very interested anymore. So I'd stop. I could like recognize his calls, and finally one day he called, and I was like, please. This was like, it was nice having coffee. Please stop calling my show. And he was like, well, I just got laid off. Will you play a song for me? And I was like, sure. And I played Maggie's Farm from him, I think, or he asked for Maggie's Farm. No, he asked for Maggie's Farm. And instead I played Mission of Burma. That's when I reached for my revolver because I told him I wouldn't play Maggie's Farm. And he proceeded to call every show at the top of the hour for the next like 24 hours requesting Mission of Burma. That's when I reached for my revolver. And then he never called again. It was over.
Okay.
Musical breakups.
We started and we broke up on air.
I have 2 answers to this question. I have a funny one and a like intense one. The funny one, I was doing that 4 to 6 a.m. show. This is only like, I think I just did this over a winter break once. I voluntarily signed up for a 4 to 6 a.m. show because I had time, and they're weird. And while I could do it, I wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it as weird as possible. And I got 2 calls. I'm counting this as 1 call because they were like right after each other. I was playing like 3 things backwards, 1 thing forwards. I think one was like a duck call record on top of like a doom rock record, and it was getting real good. And this guy calls in and just says like, "Can you believe it? I'm 60 years old and listen to this shit." And then and then like 2 minutes after him came one of my favorite calls ever. A guy says like, "Listen, I don't know if any of us can really call ourselves sane, but I'm going to go to sleep because there's more sanity there." The other one, which is not funny at all, it was just like, whoa. There was a caller that would call in a lot. Her name was Miss Vicky, and she would request Telstar pretty often. And usually I'd play it. And she eventually was trying to get involved with WTUL. She didn't seem to want to show. She just wanted to. This was very recently, actually. I think maybe 2 years ago, maybe 2 or 3. Fiona was GM, but she just wanted to help out. And Fiona told me she talked to her, and she said like, well, Fiona asked, "Do you have anything that will possibly get in the way of you completing your apprenticeship?" And she says, "Well, I am terminal with cancer." And which caught Fiona completely off guard. Didn't know what to say to that. And one day she calls me up on my phone, and says like, kind of choking up a little bit, like, "Hey Hunter, this is probably going to be my last call. I was just wondering if you could play Telstar one more time for me." And it was the last call that I ever heard from her. I think she did suggest, I can't remember verbatim what it was. I think she did suggest that she was probably going to pass away shortly after that. But yeah, that was the most heavy request that I will ever play for sure.
Wow.
Sorry, I feel like
it's all good.
No, that's good. It shows WTUL means a lot to a lot of people, and
yeah,
exactly.
She wanted to hear that song, and I mean, she could have played that on YouTube or anything else.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and that song is forever, has a totally different meaning to me now. Yeah.
Well, all right, I'll follow that. Honestly, I'm not going to really describe 2 of these calls, but they were kind of the same vein. When I'm, sometimes I would stay in sub Lisa Merman's show after Alt Oldies, so I'd get into 11 o'clock midnight, and some of the drunks would start to come out, so they would get kind of lewd and say really rude things. And one of them calls at midnight when the next girl is taking over and says one of her body parts is really too young to be out that time of night, I guess. And I'm like, why would you call and say that? I mean, it's like, so it's just weird drunk calls like that. I really like getting calls from people. My favorite are not the absurd ones like that, but the people you can tell they're like just in their car. They're supposed to be getting out and going back to work from lunch or something. They're like, "I just had to call and hurry up and tell you I love that song so much. Thanks for playing it." Or, those kind of calls. And of course, Justin, who calls us and tells us how much he loves us and requests songs. So it's kind of good to hear from those consistent people like Kevin, and who gives us the facts, and Miss Vicky of Telstar. It's nice to have those consistent callers that we know they're there, they're listening, they're part of our community, and those calls make me real happy.
I love trapping you in your car from 12 to 2 in the morning. If you're like, yo, I was about to get out. I try to play jams.
Yeah.
You know, keep you convinced like you should go to Taco Bell, do something. Try to stay in the car, Circle K, do something.
Just stay in your driveway.
Like, why do you want to leave? Like, man, can I get it on? No, it doesn't work on the phone.
Yeah.
It does, but it doesn't. If it's like something's like, you know, I feel that way. Something about when you're like playing WTUL in your car, like we got you, like you're hooked. We're like Freddy in that nightmare, and you're just like, let's go for a drive, kid. You know, so like I love that, but it's not scary. It's like, you know, we take you on awesome musical adventures at any time you feel like you want to jump in. Sometimes it's strange, like but some shows are supposed to be strange, like what is it, Night Visions, Night Watch? It happens on
Night
Friday.
Gallery.
Yeah, there
Night
we
Gallery,
go.
yeah.
Boom, you just
Also
jump in.
Thomas
Oh, I
Yeah.
listen to that
there
every
you
Friday
go.
night. Yeah.
So
Okay,
like
yeah.
it might just kick off and be strange, but like that's just the moment it's on or whatever. But you never can tell. So I feel like, you know, that's one of the high points about the station. I don't know if even that was the question. I was just throwing it in there. Like I love when people call and it's like, man, I smoked 2 cigarettes. You know what I mean? Now I need another pack. And it's like, oh, get another pack. Like I'm here. I got nowhere to go. Like whatever you're doing. I don't know if you guys game much, but like definitely like when you're in a good game session, you're like you're thirsting for the music to stay. Like, please help me just keep killing these people. Stay in the zone. So I try to keep people in the cars. It's like, man, you got nothing to do or whatever. Like some people do late nights. What was the Blue Oak barbecue? They used to call me. It's like, oh man, you're running some Ghostface, Wu-Tang. You know, like sometimes we would be chatting across Twitter, but like they would be listening live. So I'm like, yeah, I need that. Give me that energy. Like stay focused on like being here. Like, you know, it's from like, well, my show is from 12 to 2 in the morning. So like that's like I'm only gonna catch like weird people or like weird vibes. If you're an art student, like across campus, like when I used to work over in the print department, like they would just keep it locked on WTUL. It's like either you bumping some weird CDs we got in here, it's TUL. Like there's nothing, like I think the station thing was broke, like even more so. So like you're just locked in. So like it's not like trying to beat you over the head with it, but like you're gonna find something you like. You know, it's like you sitting here and you read one of these books till one of them sticks. I don't know, or something like that.
This past year.
Oops, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say this past year I haven't been able to DJ because I cannot figure out technology to save my life and record shows. But so I started calling. I started being one of those people that calls because it feels so good when people call and tell you that they like what you're listening to. So when I listen to the radio while I work, and if I love a song or I've loved the set, I'll always call before I get out just to tell the DJ that it ruled, because there's kind of nothing better than someone calling telling you how good you just made them feel.
That'd be the tips. Let's keep the tips coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, like sort of going off of that and sort of just like the goal of shows, Liz has a really good question of how do you think the rise of streaming has impacted TUL?
I'm guessing streaming in this case means streaming services like Spotify,
I would think so, yeah.
Quite the thing anymore, but etc. I guess since I'm talking, I'll go. I guess I mean to some extent, you know, we became streaming at some point too, so that a little bit of a fighting chance with that. But I definitely do think it has cut into what we do. I think people are able to find quote unquote obscure things a little more easy. You know, I think the idea of the mainstream is a lot more nebulous today than it once was. What I think has been really interesting is during COVID, where first of all, we found that we had an issue. Like, you know, most of the people that were pre-recording shows during COVID were community members. And that's because we were the people that owned music. Like, younger people don't really own music as much anymore. And so they, you know, couldn't really make shows from their own collection as much. The other thing that I think is really interesting is because the idea of what's mainstream, I think, is broken down so much. I think a lot of our DJs don't know when they're playing something that is mainstream, you know, like it's kind of when it's in the middle of your Spotify Discover playlist, like they're none the wiser, really. They don't have context for it at all. So I think that's been a really interesting thing that's popped up just in the past couple of years, is the way that it's kind of affected DJ taste. I don't know if that's quite, you know, as far as how we compete with it, like I'm sure there are numbers, but we don't know them, I think. But yeah, I think that's been a really interesting change that I've seen.
Oh, Mike, we can't hear you.
Fine line between man and
There you go.
machine. Like Pandora sometimes and Spotify like do have like human components to it, but it still like relies on the algorithm to play to you. Like my algorithm is the universe, and like, you know, the kombucha tea I had, you know, to bring to it. So I think it's still like wanting to have like the not like the original artifact, but still like that kind of feedback. Like it's a weird disconnect in this COVID age of like recording the show, because you definitely can't hear people call and talk back with you. And you know, we kind of can do it not like on this, like with the Zoom, but you kind of can do it with Twitter and stuff. But it's way more live when someone calls and you pick up the phone. Like that part of it makes it feel like, you know, a two-way street. Then even though it isn't, like, you know, if you do well enough, somebody's gonna call on the phone. But it doesn't really feel that good if you get like a retweet or a like for your like your playlist or whatever. It feels like way harder when it's like, yeah, all right, like, you know, people are really listening. So I think streaming does allow us though to like kind of check out some more music, but it does leave us with the era of not having the music. Cause like if you don't pay your subscription fees, you won't get to keep it. So I really feel like that it's a fine line. Like I guess as like you become like older, not to call anyone old, but like when you're younger, you're not like paying for the music, someone else is. And when you're getting older, it's your bucks and what you decide to do with it. So I guess like the kids have to realize once they grow up, like that they don't own their music. Like my nephew talks about having Spotify, making Spotify playlists, but he doesn't tell me about like the last album he went bought or like the last record dive he went on. Like, you know, that's not even a thought that they're having right now. But that's not like to diss them or whatever, the youngins.
The old youngins.
The whippersnappers, you know, with their MP3s and lossless files. You know, in my day, you had to get the band there and they had to play the notes. You had to know the sheet music. I don't know sheet music. I'm just saying. But that's an awesome skill too, though. Like I don't know if you guys have ever had like live shows when people come through and really play the music in studio. Like that, like even that gets like a more funkier feel because it's like, you know, we're cramped in this studio trying to give you some jams, and then you're still trying to like EQ it so it's not that loud and stuff. So I don't know, it feels like organic. Like streaming doesn't feel that way. Like, and not feels digital. Like streaming feels like what is it? I don't know if you guys read William Butler or no, is that his name? William Gibson? He made Neuromancer. It's all, like in the
Gibson,
future. Yeah. And like, you know, like you have to like give up society to like be on the internet, and then like people upset that they can't be on the net. So like I feel like radio, especially WTUL and the whole, by being still live, being organic and ran by people, like we get to kind of block that out. We're buffed a bit. Like soon as we lose our like on the air status, then we'll have to fight it out. Like it'll be all knives. We'll like, you know, like we'll do 6-hour Cajun shows or something. Whatever brings in the groups.
Yeah, Laura and Lee, I don't know if you guys have anything to add. I know that we've got about 15 minutes left, so okay. I don't know.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over time. Look, I was trying to fill.
We're good.
No.
No. It's because we've got 2 other questions. So I just wanted to see if you guys had anything else to say. Or...
No, I'll just quickly. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lee.
No, you are.
I'm just gonna say what Mike 5 said, and that's it doesn't feel organic to me. the streaming.
Yeah.
You know, I've tried recording shows, doing things. I like throwing the vinyl on the turntable. If I'm doing that on a Tuesday and pre-recording it and the show's really airing on Thursday, I may not be in the mood for that on Thursday. And it just doesn't, doesn't feel that organic.
Yeah. I can't really speak to it either. I don't think, except that it's like so much of the I also drive a lot for work, so I listen to TUL a ton in the car, like all day during work days. And there are just some gems that come out of people's mouths when they're in the studio on a microphone that, you know, sometimes people talk too much and I do turn it off. Sometimes they say wild things. I don't know. I just like that piece of spontaneity that can't be scripted because it's not something that was pre-recorded or something that you're going into a streaming service and choosing to play for yourself. And that, I think it keeps it fresh all the time. Like that keeps you listening to what's going to happen next. Like what is the other weird joke they're going to make after that one?
Yeah.
There's some really charming banter on WTUL.
It's an audio soap drama.
Yeah, I really like
drama.
Like, especially I've been like digitizing all these old shows, and it's really like a thing that I love about radio is that you just have these little moments that exist. A whole bunch of people hear about them, but nobody knows that other people are hearing them. They just kind of disappear in the wind. I don't know. I think there's something like fun and magical to that, and that's the people. That's not too much the music usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You all, I just want to pitch an idea that is never going to come to fruition, but one day when we're able to answer calls on air, which Hunter, I really want to do, I'm going to have a segment in my show called Tell 'Em Why You Mad, where people get to call in and complain about only inane things. I don't want to hear about politics. I don't want to hear about anything. You get to call me and tell me about, you know, the guy who like threw the cigarette butt out the window and it landed on your windshield. Like, tell him why you're mad. Get it out of your system. I'll play a song for you and you'll move on. So listen out, world, New Orleans. One of these days, Tell 'Em Why You're Mad is coming to a radio near you.
Duly
That's
noted.
good.
And
I like that.
And I totally agree with you guys about sort of the like spontaneity and human element. I think you all made some really good points on that. I'm going to try to get in these last two questions. This one is from David. He asks, what is your favorite album or artist from the Merit section in the past 5 years? And if you have not, if you don't know what a Merit is, really only DJs would know. A Merit is basically sort of a CD or an album that we are promoting for the next 3 months-ish. It's basically just artists that we're trying to promote.
And generally, it's a new release.
We call it New Heat Rock.
I was the one that put this in the Merits, so this might be cheating, but it got a lot of heavy spinning. Was Room 13, which no longer a local group. They're now based out of Florida, but also known as just Danny. Before they were Room 13, especially their debut album was like, it's just this wonderful, relaxing, like sort of mix of pop, exotica, tropicalia. I don't know. It just takes me to another world. I can listen to it over and over.
All right, I'll go. For me, it would be local band Berlin Taxi.
Oh yeah.
I love discovering a local band. It means I have a band I can go see in a nightclub, and they just sound so much like a modern Depeche Mode. So right up my alley.
They're really great. I unfortunately don't play Merits on my show because it is such a specialized show that I generally bring my own music for it and play nothing that's necessarily new, except sometimes Laura in the past has put in some really excellent old garage rock from New Orleans into the Merits that I've definitely played on my show. But to Laura's point, I have friends in various bands. My roommate is in a band called Special Interest, and it's always exciting every time I hear it getting played on air. I always text my roommate would be like, I just heard your band on air. And he's like, okay, noted, got it, thanks.
They're like huge now,
it's really that kind of stuff's exciting.
I have a specialty show, so I kind of get to like skate by the rules, which is awesome. But when I actually look at the playlist for the show though, I actually wind up playing what's on the wall. Like how the music flows. Like if you play a sample record, it's an OD. Sometimes it's like a local record in a way. Well, maybe I don't play local records all the time. I play like local records from all over the world. So like it might be some Brazil, it might be some Detroit funk, like like it's where like sometimes where the sample goes. But when I was in station, the merit section for our part like tends to like grow and shrink. Like, it'll be like, oh, we got some hip hop merits. And then it's like, hey, we don't have some hip hop merits. But if I had to like quickly just jump in and grab something, if I see LP, he does stuff with Run the Jewels with him and Killer Mike. Like if I see him, I know the beats are gonna be tight. He used to be in why am I messing this up? Company Flow. He used to run a label, Definitive Jux. So like when I see his name, I know the beats are gonna be tight. I think like if I see anything with like Chocolate Industries or like anything Adult Swim affiliated, like I feel like I could roll the dice on it. So like I can't really even call it out. They always doing like weird little mashups, like putting together like alternate producers. They have like an ATL remix thing that they made with like rappers from ATL with like weird electronic producers. And so it's like mashups or whatnot. But most times when I'm pulling music though, it's a mix. Well, when I used to be in the station, it would be like preconceived thoughts and then sometimes trying to fill in like what would go on. I don't want to like spoil the show. Like you got to check out the show to find out what's going on. But it's at least like 4 quarter pieces. So I know at least like there's like segmented times where I can like kind of just like I'm only gonna play this so I can like go over and pull when I used to be in the station. But now that like I'm at home, I'm mostly pulling from my own records, but I'm always like looking for new stuff. You kind of always have to be looking for new stuff. Can we like shout out like internet places like Bandcamp? Bandcamp is a fun place to find some stuff. SoundCloud. I don't know if people look for music on social media. Like I like look for like music through movies. Like if I'm watching a movie, like like something will come on and I'm like, Shazam it. And then I'll be like, oh, has that been sampled? Or like, where has this happened? Are you guys familiar with Bridgerton? It's like a new hip hop though, whatever. The violin people on there, that's the Vitamin String Quartet. They do like mashups of other people's music. I mentioned that early when we had started the chat. But like, like so like from like weaving around, I get to like touch a lot of stuff, but I'm primarily supposed to play hip hop. Like I don't want to say that in a sad way. Sometimes, I'm lost on it. Like for Mother's Day, there's not like too much mom stuff. So, you kind of gotta like boost it in. You gotta bring in some cuts. Like, oh, I'm gonna bring in some Miss Diana Ross, some Aretha Franklin. You gotta bring in other things sometimes to build a set. But I just try to like make it be as best as what it is. So like I guess that's my top 5. I'm sorry. I saw a question in the thing and I definitely was trying to like cover both at the same time. So like it's like sometimes trying to think of an idea and then like when we used to be in the station, Viva the station, can't wait for COVID to be over. You can just kind of play around. Like that's the beauty of the stacks. Like there's so much stuff. Like there's James Brown in there. Callers. Did we mention that? Sometimes the caller will bring your show from like Mrs. Whack to like way up here or whatever. I've had callers call in like they've been the thread to my needle or whatever, just really helping me out. So thank you callers. They're probably not even in the chat. But, sometimes I can't even tell you like the phone that will like buzz and you'll be like, oh man, I'm depressed, and they'll be like, man, have you heard this song? You go cue it, and then it's just like stars, and that's all I got. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. No, you've already kind of mostly answered it, but Nicholas rather had a question asking how much of what you play is from the stacks versus your own collection.
I guess I'm always like picking up like singles. It's really more expensive to buy like the whole thing. You know, we shouted out Napster earlier. Sometimes that was a good way in the past to pick up stuff, but as things become more digital and legal, there's other ways. But also Bandcamp artists sometimes stuff for like for sale. So it's like what you can pay. So like if you want to put 0 as the number, like there it is. You know, so I'm always like I guess like I do the opposite of Hunter. Like I'm digital digging. Like I'll be on like YouTube and just
Oh,
fall in
trust me,
like
I do plenty of that.
yeah. I just fall into wormholes. Like I love a musical wormhole to where like when you like I don't know if you guys watch Italian horror movies. I forget like what's the proper name for it, but there's like mean guitar riffs, like weird Galileo, maybe that's what it's called. Yeah, you know what I mean, like supreme stuff. I'm gonna mess up names now. They did the Muppets, not the Muppets. They have a weird name. The Zombies, whatever. They're like Italian horror. I can't think of their name, and I just feel bad right now because I'm supposed to be representing. But
Well,
like,
there's a band that's just Zombie.
yeah, that might be them, but like you know, the music seems creepy, and then when you let it all play out, it just, you know, it's like post-punk before post-punk, but it's in the 70s, but it's coming from Italy, you know, so it's just like these weird musical like vibes. But I'm always on the lookout. Like, you know, if the vibe is nice, you know, the record probably will get played.
So the question was directed at Mike, but I think everybody could answer it as well, as if how much of your show is from the stacks versus your own collection. And just a warning, we got like 5 minutes.
I almost all of my show is my own collection. I actually, you know, even though surf in its heyday was largely a 45 and LP from 1961 to 1964, there's plenty of modern surf, and I pride myself on being like about as watchful as it gets within the surf scene as to the new stuff coming out. I basically am constantly checking the surf tag on Bandcamp and wading through a lot of total garbage in there.
Yes, you gotta dig. You must dig.
I mean, a lot of that stuff, like, people don't know what surf is. People put the surf tag on things that it does not belong on at all. But yeah, so a lot of my stuff is actually digital. And lately I've just been ripping a lot of my, well, since all my shows are pre-recorded, I guess I'm always ripping my vinyl. But yeah, Bandcamp is really important for me. It's a big part of what I do. There's also another surf heyday in the 90s, and so you got to kind of look out for CDs from that era. But yeah, and thankfully I've been doing the show long enough and sort of established myself in the global surf scene enough that sometimes labels and bands will, you know, message me about an upcoming album, and that's always really cool. Okay, that's it for me.
Yeah, I'll say that my show is 100% records that I bring in, also because it's just like so niche and it's such a specific genre that we don't have a large collection of. But I will say that prior to doing the Alt Oldies show for the first like 13 years at the station, I mostly played out of the stacks. And by mostly, I mean I just played out of the stacks except for like a handful of records until I started collecting records and then got really specific.
And for me, I play primarily what's in the vinyl stacks. I will bring in things from my own collection if I've acquired some new vinyl or something really different, or once in a while I want to bring that Wayward Youth in and play the actual vinyl and not the version off our comp. If I do like a really theme heavy show, like for a holiday or something, I may bring more of my own things in if TUL doesn't have it, but largely I always rely on the stacks.
Well, awesome. Unfortunately, that's going to have to be our last question, but I want to thank you guys so much for being here and being willing to open up and really spill some big secrets today at this Secrets of WTUL panel.
More, I love this.
Yeah, I learned a lot, and hopefully everybody watching and listening to this learned a lot. It was a nice little insight into the station and the people who make it what it is. So thank y'all for being here, and thank you to everybody who is watching this. Yeah, if you are able to donate to us for this marathon, you can go to WTUL.FM. There's a giant flashing donate button at the top of the page. We would greatly appreciate it. And yeah, anybody have a last little goodbye to say?
I'll just say that these people that are on this are some of my favorite people at the station. So it's been fun to hang out with everybody here.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. I'm really honored to be a part of the panel with such wonderful people, and thanks for all of you who support WTUL and have over the years.
Yeah, I say ditto to Laura.
Come out with your pocket lens. You know, we take Coinstar. We can't do canned goods and books and stuff. But if it's worth something, if you got a Superman #1, you know, like a rare NES cartridge, help us reach the mile. Hunter, you know, really holds us down with the tech, but he can't do it with his fingers alone. We need your cash dollar bills or whatever. This is when the organ church spot will come in. You know, please help us.
That is an amazing way to end it. Thank you all so much, and thanks for watching. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
This is black and white. Absolutely no color. Makes you realize just what you have back there on Earth. The Earth from here is a grand oasis of the big vastness of space. For all the people back on Earth, the crew of Apollo 8 has a message that we would like to send to you.
Hello, it's me, DJ Fairy Gothmother here on WTUL. It's marathon season. You know what that means. It's that one time of year where we're asking for some help to keep the station running. You'll hear a little bit of that throughout my show today, which is, you know, wacky and all over the place as usual. I hope you enjoy, and there's information on the WTUL website on ways that you can donate if you're able to, or share it around as well. Thanks again for tuning in. It's me here, DJ Fairy Gothmother on WTUL, and without further ado, I'm going to pump right into the music. Enjoy.